Well, here we are back again, and hopefully we've got over the blip. Uh, let's see. Pressing all the right buttons, and it should come up. There we go.
Hello and welcome to our third episode of Bottled Poetry. Lovely name, isn't it? I love it.
It's great.
So this episode, like the previous two, is all about wine. However, this time we shall try a white wine. And I have the lovely Fergus with me again, who is the founder of Camino del Vino, and he knows absolutely everything there is to know about wine. So, if you like the look of the wine we are featuring, don't hesitate to give him a shout, an email, a call, whatever you like. Welcome, Fergus. Thank you very much again for being here. And this time...
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.
This time, it's all about white. Certain type of white.
It is. It is about white wine. Yeah, we've done two reds now. We're going to move on to a fantastic white wine, I think, as well. But I'm quite biased because I'm a big Riesling fan anyway. But yeah, to give it away.
So, there we go. As you mentioned, it's all about Riesling today. Anton Finkenauer. There we go. I was trying to read it backwards and I just couldn't.
Yes. So from my understanding, these originally, when the vineyard was, it was basically the name Anton Finkenauer comes from the winery, which were owned by two brothers, called Anton and Carl Finkenauer, and they're a bit like the Adidas brothers. They fell out and they wanted to do different things. So they split off and did their own little things with their vineyards. But since they've obviously passed away since, and the two vineyards have now come together, and yeah, they clearly produce a beautiful looking wine and it tastes great as well.
The next thing I've noticed is a foreign word, trocken.
Trocken, yeah.
Trocken, which means...
Trocken means dry in German.
Dry,
yeah.
right.
So this is very like, a lot of German wines are they're quite unusual to the general consumer, or they used to be. So because Riesling can come in a variety of styles. So it can be trocken, for instance, but it can also go from like a medium sweet wine to a very sweet wine. So trocken is a very, like, we know straight away as soon as we see trocken that this is going to be dry. We're not going to be fooled and have a sweet wine, basically.
Well, yeah. I can tell you that I will remember this word from now on. So if I ever look for a Riesling and I want a dry one, I know what to look for.
Look at trocken. Yeah. But yeah, there are other in like trocken. So this particular white wine, so it's from, if you look on the back, you should see a little. Basically, this wine comes from a region called Nahe, Nahe.
Yeah.
And this is what's known in the wide world as a PDO, which is a protected designation of origin region. So Nahe is one of Germany's 13 PDOs and produces essentially really great wines from that sort of area.
Because I do have some little notes. Well, I say little, but yes, it's not that little. So what's the Predictswein? Predictswein? I'm so sorry. My German is terrible.
Predictswein?
Yeah.
Yes, Predictswein.
So what is that then?
So Predictswein goes by, we're really diving in. Predictswein, basically, because Riesling can come in a different type of styles. When I say styles as well, I mean it's very dependent on the level of sweetness. In Riesling, because it varies so much in styles, and from your trockens to your very sweet wines, the German wine authorities basically have come up with another classification of determining the amount of sugar that's going to be in this wine.
It's wonderful. Just ask the tough questions.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So before I very rudely want to open this, is there anything else you would like to tell me about it?
Oh, wow. So a lot of Germany's wine growing regions are based in the southwest of the country. They're very close to the French border as well, so it benefits from the Alps as well, the slopes from the Alps. And it's very cool climate along this area. So it's along the 50-degree latitude level of the globe, which is sort of the highest that the wine regions should really go in terms of what they're trying to produce, because anything higher from that, they won't benefit from the heat from the sun, which helps them grow. But yeah, it's just where they fall basically. And so it's very good. This cool climate as well is very good for Riesling to grow in as well, and then it helps with different styles as well, like we mentioned earlier on. And because
so if it's not from Germany, it's no good.
It's very good in the Alsace region of France, which is actually they're very close in terms of geographic positions. They're basically the other side of the border with France. But those are your two main regions that are actually where you're going to get the best Rieslings, I'd say, in my opinion. Yeah.
I see. And you mentioned the Hungarian wine, Tokaj, which is Tokaj is the town, the place that the wine is originating from, and Tokaj is the name of the wine. Now that's a Riesling, right? And that's very, very, very sweet. Well, so when I hear Riesling, I think of sweet wine. Nothing else comes to mind, just sweet. And Tokaj is very, very nice, but it's just so very sweet. I could never drink a glass of that.
I went to Hungary a couple of years ago with a friend, and we went to a Hungarian wine tasting and explored all the Hungarian wines. And yeah, Tokaj wine, very, very tasty. Yeah.
No, I'm very eager to just get into this bottle.
Cool, all right, yeah.
Can I?
You can, yeah. So I'll give you a little, I'll give you a little precursor to what you should expect from this wine as well.
Shall we talk about the glass first? Would you say this is okay for a white wine?
Should. We've got very similar glasses, actually. Yeah.
Oh.
Nice. So yeah. So what is white? Well, a little bit different. I'd say a little bit better, but it doesn't really. At the end of the day, it's just a glass. If it's got steep facing angles or like a bulb shape, you should be fine. But yeah, white wines tend to come in quite a smaller size glass than your red wines.
Why?
Just because red wines, they tend to produce like a slightly wider collection of aromas and stuff like that, and so helping you really dig in when you put your nose in, collect all those lovely aromas in it. And
I see.
That sort of stuff.
Does that mean there's no aromas to collect from a white wine?
You would be very wrong. So this, for instance, is probably one of the most aromatic, is what a term called in white wine, of the white wines that you can get. So you should get a hell of a load of notes in this. So it should be like floral notes, sort of citrusy notes, appley notes, and sort of stone fruit as well. So maybe a little bit of apricot in there as well, or peach as well could be another one.
Oh.
You like the bottle as well? I really like the look of Riesling bottles.
It's simple and elegant. It's nice. Yeah.
So that's a very classic style bottle of a Riesling. They're always very slim and elegant and long as well. It's just as soon as you set your eyes on it, you're like, that's a Riesling.
Oh yeah.
So
there we go. Another new thing I learned today. Drinking wine makes you more clever.
In our last episode, we talked about screw caps and corks.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this one, Riesling, I probably would not, if I was a winemaker, put a cork in it, because the grape is so elegant and so quite delicate, and any little bit of texture would impart on the flavour of the wine. So you really want to try and preserve the sort of freshness and crispness that this wine has.
I thought you were talking about Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Soon.
The crispness. Yes.
And so yeah, a screw cap is very good as well.
Very good.
Wouldn't look past it if it's got a screw cap on a Riesling.
Okay, so I can still buy it.
Yeah, don't stick your nose up at it. Yeah, you'll be fine. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, again.
So you mentioned just below the widest part, right?
Yeah, I'd say again, same with this because we're just tasting. Put
Yep.
it just below, or just sit it on the widest part as well. So my background is really messing up with this one. But yeah, just below there would be fine. Again, the same reason where you'll be able to collect all the notes and flavors that, or the aromas that should come from it as well. Yeah.
Right. Now, wish me luck.
But yeah, same again with the, well, yeah, you should be able to, again, spin it around. If you struggle to spin it in your hand, you can spin it on the table as a flat surface.
Oh no, it's spinning all
You
right.
should, again, like if you even just, so this is quite far, a long way from my nose, but I can already smell the sort of appley, citrusy, peachy flavors that I'm getting from this one as well. It's just
Apple, possibly.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. That's what the wine should smell like and taste like, which is nice. Can you smell any? If you put a little bit closer, it then becomes quite like very in your face. It's quite lovely. Again, like I think I said this in the last episode. Taste and smells is it's a very personal experience.
Yeah.
Where you may be able to pick up something else that I may not. For instance, it's just purely a personal, whatever you can taste at the end of the day.
I see. Now, so then does that mean that whoever described originally the notes for this wine, that's just a personal view and he or she may be wrong?
They probably would have got a collection of people to try and taste the wine and see what they're doing. I wouldn't. Again, if you don't pick up the notes, I wouldn't let that get you down or at least fret over it, because the whole point is about enjoying wine at the end of the day. And what you do taste, you like, and if you don't like it, then don't try it again, I guess.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Let's go. This is beautiful. Oh, this is very nice.
Thanks. Yeah, this is why I'm a big fan of Riesling. I really love it.
I mean, you can just talk by yourself. I'm busy. Can you just carry on with your story, please? This is to be enjoyed.
It's really delicate. It's really elegant.
It really is.
Riesling's great for pairing with, especially if you're eating quite like Thai dishes as well. So like Thai green curry or something like that. But something that a flavor you wouldn't want to like have a big red meat with the wine, basically, because it's just two contrasting flavors. Red meat in itself carries quite a lot of like quite big flavors, which would really sort of overtake the wine and its elegance of the sort of florals and quite nice, crisp, green and citrusy and peachy flavors as well. You wouldn't want to do that, where it's like Thai food or quite like light vegetables, for instance, like salads. This would be a lovely like lunchtime, summery sort of wine. You'd want that sort of wine, that sort of pairing, because they don't. You basically, if you're trying to do food and wine pairings, you don't want too much of a battle. You just want them to sort of match one another nicely. You don't want to really be over ahead of one another. Basically, is what you're trying to go for. So like a salad would be nice. I'm gonna have a little bit more, I think.
A little bit more. Someone does like Riesling. I hope you're not driving anywhere after this. This is very, very nice. So to me, it's lemon and apple, the main ones.
Cool. That's good. I'd say that, yeah, you nailed it on the head.
And it's not too overpowering either. So it's just the right amount of taste and smell, I guess. Right, I need to stop this, otherwise this is just going to be a recording of me singing into the glass or whatever. So, thank you very, very much. Is there anything else that we may have forgotten? Since this is one of your favorite wines, have you shared all your knowledge about this beauty?
I believe so.
Okay.
That is, yeah, I think I'm all yes. I think I'm all good.
Very good. maybe in the future we can taste a different Riesling.
Yeah, of course.
Now you've got me hooked, I think, on this one.
Well, yeah, we can do.
Right. Very, very good.
Let's try them all.
Yeah, let's do. I mean, how long can a series be? We can go until next Christmas. I definitely recommend this. It is beautiful. Beautiful. You will absolutely love it. So, Fergus Wood, Camino del Vino, thank you very much. And we shall see you on the next episode, next time, next week, for another bottled poetry.
Well, there we are, as Fergus and Annie, and lots of wine in between. One of the favourites that we had was the late Mayor Stephen Catlin, and Stephen did some very, very good work, very good investigative work for this station, and we have got a lot of that left. So why don't we just go back and see the sort of thing that he did?
There's a big tendency at the moment of central and local government not to give out much information about anything, using either the Data Protection Act, but also extending it to we aren't allowed to give out that information. Stephen Catlin, Catlin's Corner, is concerned about this lack of information from our various government levels. Stephen?
The Hole in the Wall Cafe in the Grange Gardens in Lewes is still open at weekends because it just serves through a hole in the wall. What is not open at weekends is the public toilet facility in Grange Gardens. Now, it has been said to me, it's a logistical reason. It cannot be logistical. The Court Road toilets are open every day. The Market Tower toilets are open every day. What logistics in that? And of course, the government has said that public toilets must be open as usual. So, on Monday evening, I wrote to the leader of Lewes District Council, asking for an explanation, querying logistics, and saying a lot of people are, forgive the pun, inconvenienced by this. And really, if we are serving the public, can we not do it with a better will than we're showing at the moment? Well, Lewes District Council, of course, is a law unto itself, or as we think locally, it's a law unto Eastbourne Borough Council. And I've had no reply, not even a standard acknowledgement. Now, if you treat the people who pay your wages with contempt, you must expect them to regard you in the same light. So I'm not going to give up on this. He will get a reminder on Monday, as will the district councillor I copied in to 100 per 100,000. And yet, people in Darwin were having a wedding party in a furniture factory, and 29 people were arrested. People, party guests, had come from Scotland, London, and Manchester. Why are these certain areas more prone to the infection than others? Is it because, one could say, poorer areas? What is it? Why? Or do elements of society in those areas have a far greater disregard than we do elsewhere in the country? I ask the question. I don't have the answers. And if the government does, well, they've probably spun it out as something else.
Thanks, Stephen. Catherine's Corner with Stephen Catlin. I'm Keith Hayes. Tiddle-pip.
Behind me you can see the cancer research shop windows, but they are unusually empty. Any other year you would be seeing Leslie Hills painting right here. She is painting the people of Lewis. They are many recognisable faces. Today we're speaking to one of these people behind the paintings.
How long have you got? Entire programme, I think. Well, Leslie's a super lady and very much a part of this town, which I like to think I am. And I used to see her in the windows, and I noticed all the wonderful portraits there of famous people, obviously. But basically, Leslie was a friend. I used to pop into her shop, the cancer research shop, and we got to know each other. And I think she suggested that perhaps I had a portrait, and I thought, well, not a bad idea. Why not? Bit of fun, and it's raising money for a good cause, cancer research or RNLI. So I said, yeah, fine, okay. I didn't do a sitting or anything like that, and it's wearing that scarf. So yeah, I was very pleased to do that. It's a bit of an ego trip as well, but why not? And all the other side of it, obviously, people with their pets and children and, you know, memories, which are terribly, terribly important. I was born in 1936, which is a long time ago, but it was a very good year because we had 3 kings. The Crystal Palace burnt down in London, and I was born in Croydon, which is South London, in Thornton Heath, which is even more South London. So that was me, born in 1936, only child. Mum had the baby in a nursing home because in those days women did do that sort of thing. And of course it was just before the Second World War. So what I remember of the Second World War is very little, except for one thing, and that is that as a small child, as a baby, I used to be fed banana mashed up with cream and sugar. And obviously the war meant there were no more bananas. And so as far as I was concerned, I wasn't really too bothered about Adolf Hitler and what was going on. I was far too young, but I was very concerned that there were no bananas. And on one occasion, I was in Southbourne in Bournemouth, which is, we were evacuated there, the family. And the greengrocer was serving in the Far East, and he brought home some bananas, and he raffled those bananas. And one of them was won by my girlfriend at the time, who was called Mary. Mary knew that I liked bananas and offered the banana to me. And would you believe it, I actually refused to have it because I had read somewhere that Adolf Hitler was dropping identifiable objects into the streets, which when you picked them up, exploded. So I thought that she was handing me an exploded bomb as a banana. But finally I did accept it, and then I had to decide whether to mash it or whether to slice it up. And that was a big decision at the age of about 7. I went to a school in Croydon. The careers master on one wet day, similar to today, went round the class and said, what do you want to be, Martin? Well, I'm going into banking, sir. Right, that's good, fine, said Percy Ewins. Dean, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to run a cafe. So fine. Hente, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to broadcast. And then the bell rang at the end of the class. And so that was the only career advice I received, nil. So it was a bit frustrating. I did national service. I served in the Royal Air Force. 2728589 is my number. If there is a Third World War, I will probably be serving the Queen with my Olivetti, because I was a typist in the Air Force for 2 years. Came out of the Air Force, went back to my first job, which was Shell Petroleum. I worked for Shell because my father worked for Shell. I got very fed up with it because I was a number. I wanted to be an individual. I've always believed in the individual. I decided that the best thing to do would be to get into journalism. So I applied to a newspaper in Croydon in 1958-9. I was accepted by the Croydon Advertiser and I became a reporter on that newspaper. But after that, only 6 months later, I had a rich uncle in America, or at least I thought he was rich. His name was Uncle Harry, and he was a horse polo trainer for the Santa Barbara Polo Club, which is big time on the west coast of America. So I wrote to Uncle Harry and I said, would he support me if I came over? I wanted to learn about radio in America. Foolishly, he said he would. I wasn't able to work in broadcasting because I wasn't a member of the union. So I used to do English voices. I was quite good at this. You know, very nice. I'd say, why don't you go down to Chuck's Motorola and TV on State Street? They've got an amazing bargain. John, that's very good. Could you do that again, John? So that went very well, but ultimately I got homesick. I missed my girlfriend at the time, so I decided to come home. And I came home, and would you believe it, I went back to the Croydon Advertiser, and that's quite enough up until 1962. There's more. Well, all right, 1962, the job came up with an airline called British European Airways, BEA. Famous airline at the time, now part of BOAC or British Airways. And so I applied for the job as a feature writer with BEA, got the job, and for 5 years, an amazing 5 years in the 60s, when I accompanied the Beatles to Stockholm, Sean Connery and James Bond to Istanbul, Fall from Russia with Love, Hayley Mills to Crete, an amazing job for 5 years. Why did it end? It ended because the BBC decided to open local radio throughout the UK, and that's how we get into broadcasting. I applied for a job and amazed myself and everybody else by getting the job as sports producer for BBC Radio Brighton, which of course is not too far from the lovely town of Lewes, and we covered Lewes by radio throughout my entire career there. I was 10 years full-time staff at BBC Radio Brighton. In fact, one of the first presenters, and my main programme was at 5:30 in the morning. Now you're going to say, who the heck is watching or listening to the radio at 5:30? And the answer is older people perhaps, who can't sleep, may be in pain, feeling alone, fed up with the situation, whatever the situation. And there was the early bird show, which was at 5:30 until 6:30, and it was a very friendly little programme. We had a mascot worm called Whirly, who used to talk to people. Hello, Whirly. Hello. How are you? I'm not very well. You're not very well, Whirly. Why is that? I'm tired. You're tired? I'm sorry about that. Are you going to go to bed? No. Why not? I don't like it. That sort of thing. That went on and on and on, and people had photographs of Whirly the worm. And the other thing we actually adopted a duck to raise money for a wildfowl trust. And so we had a competition to see who could name the duck. And the winning entry was called Mrs. Feather, which is quite a nice name for a duck. Why did the programme end? Because the BBC couldn't afford to pay me £70 a week to get up at £70 a week to get up at 5:30 in the morning. So they decided to axe the programme. There were protests. In point of fact, there were petitions outside the building, letters to Mrs. Thatcher at the time. But of course it had no good whatsoever, and so the programme ended and I vanished off the airwaves. But what I did was I moved wisely to Lewes. I built my own radio studio in a garage, and we produced programmes for hospital radio throughout the United Kingdom for 6 years, and they had star guests like Petula Clark, you name it, we had star guests on this programme. And I've still got every single one of those audio cassettes, and equally on an MP3. I like MP3s, tiny little memory stick, put it in, press a button, and I can see any of those programmes or listen to any of those programmes with all the star names. I'm running out of voice. People in the street, the good thing about radio is people don't recognise you. I was recognised once when I was going to Brighton railway station, crossing the road just to get to the station, and there was a guy from St Dunstan's for visually impaired people, blind servicemen. And seeing that he was about to cross the road, I said, are you okay? Can you want any help? And he said, no, I'm fine, John. Now, this was a blind man, but the point is he recognised the voice. That's the nice thing about radio. Now, radio was very personal in those days, and that's why, in a way, people sort of reacted well to it. People say, have you changed, John? And I say, no, I haven't changed at all. But what has changed is radio itself. It's become obviously far more sort of news orientated. It's got to have the weather, it's got to have fitted slots, and also tight programs of music. I could do anything I liked for that 1 hour, basically because the manager at the radio station wasn't listening to the program, so he had absolutely no idea what was going on. On one occasion, I actually did the program naked, but the good thing about radio was nobody could tell. You see, it was a very warm day, I have to say. And you might say, well, what about other members of staff? Weren't they affronted? And I said, well, there weren't other members of the staff, because I used to open the radio station, actually front door, go in, pick up the weather, and ring up the bus station to find out about the buses and the trains. And I was on my own for at least the first 45 minutes. So radio has changed. There's far more of it now. Commercial radio, of course, I wasn't commercial radio. And I'm a little disappointed with the way that it went, but that's changed, isn't it? Everything has to change. When I was working in radio, one or two listeners wanted a record played, and instead of phoning in, which is how things are done, they would write it. Very often you wrote in and said, could I have Engelbert Humperdinck singing, or the Beatles singing? And to get their postcard or letter to my attention, or anybody's attention, they would occasionally put them on postcards. And some of the postcards were Mabel Lucy Atwell postcards. She was famous as a postcard illustrator. And I used to say, for want of something to say, my goodness, you've got another Mabel Lucy card here. They're really nice. She was so charming, wasn't she? Everybody thought that was good. I decided to find out who the hell Mabel Lucy Atwell was. Did she exist? Was she Walt Disney in disguise, you know? So I actually found her family. I travelled across to her family, who lived outside Marlborough in Wiltshire. I met her daughter, Peggy, and Peggy did an interview with me that was on Woman's Hour, which is a programme on the BBC, Radio 4. And it told this story that had never been told before on radio. A remarkable story about this amazing woman, Mabel Lucy Atwell, who is an example to all women. The best example of that, really, is that as a young girl, she was never encouraged to do anything other than look after the boys in the family. It's a very big family in the East End of London. She used to do little sketches, and encouraged by one of her sisters, she sent one or two sketches to Raphael Tuck, who are big postcard producers in London. She signed the letter in around 1899, probably, M.L. Atwell. And they wrote back and said, "Dear sir, well done. We do like some of these sketches. Please send us some more." And it took at least a year before they discovered, and by then it was too late, that they weren't dealing with a man. Shock horror, they were dealing with a woman. From that point onwards, she never looked back. I'd written for Viva Lewis, the magazine, for 10 years, little jocular, funny little bits, a bit like the Early Bird Show. And people liked it and banged into people in the street, which was nice, chatted to them, brief little conversations, all reported in there. And over those 10 years, I met some very interesting people and did some very interesting things. So I thought, well, I might as well sum it all up in those 10 years, do a little book, and then try and raise a bit of money for the Friends of Lewis Victoria Hospital, which is very important to this town. And suddenly there was this little other magazine available, but free. I gave it away, obviously. But if people liked it, then they could donate some money to the Lewis Victoria Hospital, and happily we raised well over £500, and it's still doing very well. I must say that it's still available online, believe it or not. How you find it, I haven't got a clue. I'm not very high tech. I'm not digital. There used to be a really nice car boot sale in Lewis on a Sunday. And occasionally I would see Raymond Briggs down there and have the occasional chat. And I thought potential here. He produced a book about all the pieces he writes for a magazine called the Oldie Magazine, which is for old people like me. So I thought, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll write to him and say, could I sort of abridge some of these articles and maybe turn them into a play? A radio play. And as I said, it's a long story, but basically he approved. He said, as long as I'm not involved, he said, you can do it. And again, we raised money for charity, and we put on 2 shows, and we were planning to put on another show in Lewis, but unfortunately the circumstances have changed and we can't do that. And it was a very, very funny little radio play all about this quite remarkable man, Raymond Briggs. So Raymond Briggs, Mabel Lucy Atwell, Max Miller. And going back to the point I made much earlier, they were all individuals. You know, my message to anybody is, anybody can be ordinary. Try and be extraordinary. It helps. Cut.
Well, hello. Here we are back again. Albeit in diminished form. No, there we go. I'm having a little breakfast. My dear friend Frances is in to look after me, doing a wonderful job. She beats me first, then she thinks I will soften towards her. And in fact, I stay as awkward as ever. But between us, we get through the morning, and normally I'm still alive. So do join me, and we're going back through the archives. And that's not the easiest thing in the world, but we'll try and stay with it. Well, let's see what else we've got. Oh, so Old Mirador programmers.
And now back to kissing. But for the mafia, that's a sign of execution. The old man tells us of his own brush with the mafia execution squad. I wonder if it's true.
As a journalist, you come across a lot of criminals, of course. And some come across big criminals and some come across small criminals. In my case, it was medium-sized criminals, because the mafia in North America would franchise out areas that weren't quite big enough to tempt them to take over directly. And Vancouver, British Columbia, was one of those areas. So it was franchised out to, would you believe it, with a great Italian name, a chap called Bill Robertson, known as Fats Robertson. He was the mafia chief. And because of my contacts and so on, I knew and chatted to Bill several times. It is interesting that their view, and I say their view because I don't subscribe to it necessarily, is that that is amoral. What they say is that they make money out of society, out of the community, while the government and government people also make money out of society. In other words, they see a counterbalance, the yin and the yang, if you like, which is an interesting viewpoint. Anyway, my wife and I had dinner several times with Bill and other people, and his wife was quite delightful. She was an English model, quite beautiful, very articulate, and charming. One night on the way home from dinner, I said to my wife, she's quite lovely, isn't she? And Valerie turned to me and said, you're getting charmed, you're getting suborned. She's like a rattlesnake. She knows exactly what her husband does. And of course, her husband was responsible for deaths. Now, Bill was imprisoned. It's very rare for a mafia boss to be imprisoned. But he was persuaded that he could open up a gambling joint in an old restaurant fishing lodge at the top of Indian Arm outside Vancouver, which is a great big long field. And it's backed by mountains. And those who persuaded him to do it said, you know, all you've got to do is to put somebody in front with a pair of binoculars, and if the RCMP comes sniffing around, you've got no problem, you'll see them coming and we can all scarper. Well, the RCMP always get their men, and they came over the mountains from the back, raided the joint, and Bill went to prison. And while he was in prison, one of his cohorts began to sing like a bird, began to talk to the RCMP about their crime activities and giving them details, which could have kept Bill in prison for much longer than he went for his gambling crime. He came out of prison, and the word was that he was back. His informant, meantime, or the informant, had gone to prison for another crime, and he also had just been released. My colleague, or a colleague, and myself had gone to the city of New Westminster to cover some story or other. It was a very hot night, and on the way back I said to George, my colleague, I'd love a beer. And he said, well, there's a Canadian Legion around the corner and I'm a member, let's go and have a beer there. Which we did, and we were sitting having our beer, and who appeared at the door but Bill Fats Robertson. And Bill came in, and he just gave a slight acknowledgement to me that he recognised that I was there. He walked over to another table and he leaned over and he said, good to see you back, Louis. And Louis was the informant who had just been let out of prison. Bill then leaned over and gave him a kiss on the neck. The kiss of death? It didn't mean too much to me at the time. The kiss of death was supposed to be something that was thought up by us media types. It was only shown in movies. But it is said to have gone back to the time of Judas, who kissed Jesus, and that he was the betrayer. And so the kiss of death had come down so that there were a number of instances where the sign that somebody was to be executed was given. And it was always to keep the mafia boss at a distance. He gave the kiss, somebody else would carry out the execution. It didn't mean too much. Robertson had a beer with this chap. Off he went. Once again, a slight acknowledgement as he left. And that was it for the evening. The next morning, I was on early duty and I went down to the police station. I had to look through the police blotter to see what had happened overnight. And there was a report from the Vancouver police that one Louis Meyer had been found dead with his throat cut in the parking lot of the very Canadian Legion in which I had had a drink with my pal, in which Bill Robertson had come and given the kiss of death. All right. Were the two connected? I don't know. I'm not laying any charges. All I know is that it would appear that the kiss of death does exist, that I saw it, and that the recipient was executed. I'm saying that there are three separate instances because even now the mafia have long tentacles, and I wouldn't want anybody to decide to, not that they would sue me, they're not daft. They don't take little fish like me into court so that all sorts of cross-examination can reveal what they're doing. But I would start looking under my car again the way that I did when I first came back from Northern Ireland, just to make sure it hadn't been tampered with and there wasn't a piece of explosive underneath. Oh, dear, dear, dear. And it is one of those things that happens in one's life. So that was the experience that I had. The other, just to tack something else on, is one day I was sitting in the press room in the police station, and in North America it is required that the civil bodies, the civic bodies, provide amenities for the media, for the press. It's more so in the United States under their constitution, one of the amendments, but Canada has followed suit. So I was sitting in the press room all on my own. Why, I don't know. When a lawyer I knew, a young lawyer, came along and said, think you might be interested in courtroom A. So I toddled up to courtroom A, settled down, still the only journalist there. In came 3 or 4 bedraggled people, and the charge was harmful, bodily harm, bodily harm. This young lawyer got up and said, Your Honour, we are going to demand the death penalty. Shock, horror ran around the courtroom. The Canadian government had suspended the death penalty several years before. Several years, exactly 5 years, and they put it on a moratorium. They hadn't done away with the death penalty. They had just delayed making a decision. Good political move for 5 years. And that had expired. And here, this young lawyer, ready to make his name, said he was going to ask for the death penalty. And he did. And the cabinet, way back in Ottawa, once informed of this, hastily convened and extended the moratorium until they could make up their minds whether they would or they wouldn't. But I was one of the few journalists in Canada to see a demand for the death penalty made by a prosecution lawyer. And there aren't many who have seen that or will see it from now on. Mafia, mafia, mafia. Crime, crime, crime. You don't get any bigger than that. Doodle pip.
Hi, I'm Fergus. I'm the founder of Camino del Vino. We're a new online wine startup in Lewis, and we're looking to help educate people around wine and make wine more accessible to you. We have a whole wide range of wines available, looking from undiscovered regions in Lebanon to sort of your famous regions of Rioja in Spain. We offer a personalised service, and we try and have a unique experience for every single customer that we have. So you can find us on www.caminodelvino.co.uk, and we look forward to seeing you.
So we got an intro there.
The other day I felt a warmth between myself and Mole and Ratty, the two little characters from Wind in the Willows, as I sat on the banks of the River Ouse and let it drift by. Vroom, vroom. Today I feel more like Toad of Toad Hall, the animal that was always getting himself into trouble because of his excesses. Vroom. But horsepower is the essence of this episode, because horses played a central part in the history of Lewis. And as might be expected, were often at the centre of violence, adding to the history of a bloody town. Horses, of course, were nothing unique to Britain. Cavalry had been a major part of warfare, and peaceful farming from time to time immemorial. But for Lewis in early times, they were an important part of its economy.
Last three.
The East Side House.
The Domesday Book, the first ever audit of England in 1086, records that anyone selling a horse in Lewis should pay to the reeve or estate manager a penny. The buyer also paid a penny. So a horse tax was in place more than 1,000 years ago. And so the horse took centre stage from the earliest of Norman times. I've shown you the tilting grounds where knights on horseback tried to unseat each other. But that was nothing compared to the violence that Lewis races brought to the town. But I get ahead of myself. Lewis was one of the most famous racecourses in history until 1965. The fourth oldest in the country, racing began in 1727, although some argue there is evidence it was 26 years before that.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Lewis. It's the final race meeting here at Lewis, Monday, September the 14th, 1964. The ground is firm and the wind is straight across the course. The runners for the first race, the Cookmere Apprentices Handicap, are on their way to the start. Saucy Lad representing Tom Masson in the purple with the gold star. Number 11 is Nimberg. And away they go. They're off and racing, and Buzz made a bright start there and leads in the early stages. And now a little bit of a rise as they race past the mile marker and head towards the right-hand turn, which will bring them into the home straight. Closing stages with less than 100 yards left to travel. It's Buzz pulling clear, and Buzz goes on to win by about 3 lengths to Misty River in second, Saucy Lad back in third, Great Lady, Nimberg Wave, Methane, the Wolf, and St. Kieran.
In that year, after almost 300 years of horse racing, it closed down for good, mainly because it had no electricity, no running water, in fact, no facilities at all. Yet in the late 18th century, it attracted royalty, the big gamblers of the day, and it produced some champion racehorses over the years that brought great races and great feats to an otherwise pretty but blustery track atop the Downs. Considered by racing folk as the greatest racehorse of all time, Eclipse raced there in 1769. The Derby winner of 1793, Waxy, was a Lewis-trained horse, as was Charlottetown in 1966. Great jockeys rode there, such as Lester Piggott and Gordon Richards. And Barry, you've, although it started in 1720 or so, you weren't here then, but you were, as a very young boy, involved in this racecourse.
Yeah, I certainly was, yeah. I'd say I was born on race day, 29th of August 1950. My mum's side of the family were all racing people, going back hundreds of years probably, so, you know, my gran used to take us up here.
It's very quiet and serene today, so what was it like on race days up here?
Very, very noisy. Hustle and the bustle of coaches coming up here, cars. I mean, all these places over here were car parks. You had all the horse boxes, the tote men, tic-tac men shouting the odds and everything else. Lots of entertainment going on, you know, and it was very, very busy. A 4-mile race which started right down the bottom of the hill there. The horses used to run right down there as far as you can see, and come back down here to the winning post.
Right.
They used to have 2 winning posts. They used to have a 5 furlong winning post and a 6 furlong winning post. But what they wanted to, they made the 6 furlong winning post another furlong away from the stands, because they both wanted to start them on the straight. Otherwise it was unfair, so they had a straight run.
Right.
In 1914, I think it was 14, they shut that down because they found it was too dangerous. And not only that, for the horses to get up that hill. They used to start them from here, they run them down there, round the loop and back again. And that made 4 miles, but it had to be like the best out of 3 or something.
Right.
So some of them horses run 12 miles just to win a race. They had 10 minutes break, they got back after about 9 or 10 minutes, they'd have a bucket of water, drink and wash down, and back they used to go again. After a while, it just phased out a little bit. It used to be a 3-day meeting in August, and then it got to that it was just going to be a day a year. And it got to the stage where it was just one race, and all the horses in that race were trained in Lewis. And the guy that wrote about it, you know, he said this is probably going to be the last day.
There are many in Lewis who are still resentful that the course was closed. It brought a good deal of cash to the town. Lewis had many racing stables, and a thriving racing community numbered as many as 60 establishments. But perversely, it was responsible for cleaning up the sport, despite suffering a bout of violence. The early part of the 20th century saw the rise of vicious gangs around the country. These gangs often fought each other, but to keep cash in their pockets, they targeted racecourses. They would secretly ease their way into courses and then meet up to viciously attack and rob bookies. Racegoers, and even jockeys. They were feared at race meetings throughout Britain. And so it was on a June afternoon in 1936. London villain James Spinks and his gang turned up at Lewes for an attack on bookies. They gathered, some 30 strong, on the edge of the racecourse, ready to pounce. And pounce they did. They attacked and savagely beat a bookie and managed to rob him. But not known to them, 2 CID officers had been posted in the grounds. The 2 detectives alerted their fellow coppers and raced towards the gang. According to some reports, a rival gang got into the act and all hell broke loose. It must have been some sight. Villains scattering in all directions. Keystone cops were in full chase, and the excited racegoers panicked and dived for cover. But it was the police on this day at Lewes Racecourse who passed the winning post. They managed to nick 16 of the gang, took them to Lewes, where they were sentenced to long prison terms. That put an end to the decades-old practice of course hijacking by these fearless and vicious gangs. A real feather in the cap of the Lewes coppers. Nabbed. Pulling you aside, locals will whisper in your ear that Graham Greene's Brighton Rock was really about Lewes Racecourse. They say the gang fight in his novel was based on the events of Lewes in 1936. To think that Pinky strode this course, what a ghost to have here now. Pinky wasn't in the pub, that's for sure, but I bet you he wouldn't have bought me a drink anyway. Talking of betting, the Prince Regent helped pack the crowds into Lewes Racecourse. The high and the mighty liked rubbing shoulders with him, and the humble and lowly liked rubbernecking. Accurate figures weren't kept in those early days, but estimates vary that crowds reached between 10 and 20,000 spectators. That was on special race days. The course also provided national champions, and one horse is buried here along with his rider, galloping the old Lewes Racecourse in perpetuity. But the love of horses by the Prince Regent could well have resulted in his early demise. He was a betting man and a daredevil. As I've mentioned, the future king drove a coach and four down this street. There is no written evidence that the story is strong enough for this sign to be erected by the local council. The prince was often in Lewes, and a renowned gambler was part of his inner circle. Sir John Larday, a successful racehorse owner, lived in Lewes, was colourful, resided on the High Street, and was a gambler and horseman. His wife Letitia was equally as colourful. Accomplished coach driver, she had been the mistress of a convicted highwayman. The Prince, Sir John and their circle were notorious enough from their lifestyle as it was. But hell-raising Sir John went down in history for a wager in Brighton. He bet a larger and heavier man that he could carry him piggyback over Steen. When the man showed up, Lardet insisted the man stripped naked because the bet didn't include carrying his clothes. This was the street that the Prince Regent drove his coach and four down. I tried walking up it. That's tough enough, but coming down is impossible. So speculation has it that it was Lardet, or perhaps even his fascinating wife, who urged the prince to make the bet. History records that he won the bet, not on any betting slip, but because the prince went on to become King George IV. In an earlier episode, we took a look at the castle tilting ground. Tilting, or trying to knock an opponent off a horse, was originally military training. But later it became sport. Knights won large purses in tournaments and won accolades from ladies for their prowess. Ordinary folk couldn't compete. They were forced to be spectators, but they had their own violent sport in the form of folk football. This precursor to our modern game raged across the countryside with whole villages chasing a pig's bladder. It was so violent that kings from the 13th to the 17th century tried to ban it. But I digress. Tilting, of course, involved horses. And it was a sport that eventually gave way to a calmer pastime. The Lewes tilting ground became a bowling green in 1640. Not a horse in sight. But typical of Lewes, it still plays the game the way Sir Francis Drake played it. And it is said gave inspiration to Tom Paine to write his Rights of Man after playing here. The horses never really disappeared from history. Fox hunting is recorded in Sussex in the late 18th century. But in Lewes, a traditional meeting of huntsmen on Boxing Day didn't begin until the early 20th century. Now, each year, the Southdown and Erridge huntsmen gather on Boxing Day ready to ride to hounds. As you might expect, this occasion has contributed to violence on Lewes High Street. Protesters have turned up for decades to protect the killing of foxes. It is now, of course, against the law to kill foxes this way. But it doesn't stop the protesters. Lewes is still a rural country town, so thousands turn out to cheer the riders down the high street. Clashes are inevitable, and each year they occur. No deaths, but the odd bloody nose, as being in a bloody tiny town. When the hunt meets outside, and there are loads of protesters in balaclavas and so on, who strides out with a stirrup cup, the tray held in the air, and offers a drink to the huntsman? It's Cliff. How does it feel going out to face the mob?
Well, I suppose it can be quite scary at times, but I kind of feel that it's very necessary to keep the tradition going, as the master of the house has done this for about 150 years or so. And I've just trotted out for the 29th year, the 29th time, with the stirrup cup for the Southdown and Erridge hunt.
So and you always do it, it's always you. Yeah.
It's something God willing, I'd like to keep going.
Well, you've got a cheering section in me, because I'm always there saying, "Go, Cliff, go." I think it doesn't matter which side I take. It's a very brave thing to go out, and tradition is tradition, and it should be maintained.
I totally agree with that. And there's about 3,000 people out there cheering you on, so it's rather nice.
Now, when we're talking about horses, I mean, this is an old coaching inn.
Yes, well, it became an inn, a coaching inn, about 300 years ago. And I was doing a little study some years ago when I was looking at previous owners from that time. And within that 300-year period, I've just found out that I'm the longest standing owner in the whole period, in the whole time.
Yeah.
So, with 28 years to my name.
For many years, this town, like many in England, had horse-drawn vehicles of bread and milk delivered by horse-drawn cart. But remember the past and 63 pubs in Lewis. Yes, you've guessed it, so was beer. And it still is. So deep is the horse embedded in Lewis society that the remaining town brewery, Harvey's, still delivers its products in a horse-drawn dray. And it tastes all the better for it. Well, every other Tuesday you deliver in a very traditional way, do you not?
We do. We have our horse and dray wandering around the streets of Lewis. Lewis not very kind to horses, very steep hill, but they manage very well. And it's a marvellous attraction. I mean, it's a good tourist attraction, and I think the town have taken the horses to their hearts.
Well, I think that's very true. Yeah, I mean, they're magnificent creatures. So I'm closing this episode on a relatively modern phenomenon. Horse whispering. This technique, made famous in a Hollywood movie, is often seen as a modern technique. But horse whispering has been around for centuries. They just didn't boast about it. That was because they were thought to be witches. Witches were executed in a variety of ways. But after a French horse whisperer in the 18th century was burned at the stake along with his horse, others kept quiet. There's no record that horse whisperers were ever burned in Lewis. We were too busy burning humans. But the craft stayed below the surface. Because Lewis was known for being a town of witchcraft. That's a story for another day. But whispering is alive and well in Lewis. The horse. A part of Lewis history from Saxon times to this very day. We've talked horses today. How the Lewis Hunt tears down the High Street on Boxing Day. How the Prince Regent risked his neck by driving a coach and four down Keir Street. And how the old Lewis racecourse at one time flourished, but today is lost. Thankfully, not forgotten. Oh, exhausting. I feel like a drink. No pub up here. Whoa!
Hello and good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Here we are with the second episode, which is all about wine tasting for all the people out there who are wine connoisseurs or just want to know a little bit more about the wines themselves. So we have with us Mr. Fergus Wood, who will introduce himself and tell you all about his company. Hello, Fergus.
How you
Please
doing?
tell us more about yourself. I'm well, and once we get through all these wines, we'll be even better, probably. How are you?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. It'll be a great way. We're recording this at lunchtime, so hopefully it should get us
Indeed.
into the afternoon quite nicely. Yes. And
Just the
Thursday-
right time for it.
Exactly. Thursday's the new Friday as well, so at least we're starting early. It's good.
Oh, I like that. That's
Yes.
great.
So yes, I'm Fergus Wood. I'm the founder of Camino del Vino, as you can see in the background. I'm a new startup. We're about to launch a new startup, online wine startup, where you can find us at www.caminodelvino.co.uk.
I think it's very clever of you to have started this company, because I myself, I don't know much about wine. I know there are 3 different colours.
Yeah. There's 3 main colours, but there's orange wines as well. But we'll go with that.
There we go.
Let's keep it simple to start with.
Shall we leave that for later?
Yeah.
Let's have red and white
Let's
later
white
on
and
for
rose,
now.
yeah.
Okay, great. So last time you were about to start talking about this beauty here, Wonderful.
Go with a pearl earring, yes.
Which is a Merlot.
Correct.
Lovely. Here it is, and it's Chilean, is it?
It is Chilean, yes, correct, yeah.
Great.
So it went by a different name, the portrait, or the painting, sorry.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is, or don't really know.
That's fine.
But
Yeah.
it's now just known as the girl with the pearl earring because it is so iconic and so distinct.
Indeed.
But this particular Merlot is also great for the region. It just thrives in the Central Valley, and the Central Valley it's sort of wedged in between the Andes on the east coast, and then it's got small sort of low-lying mountains on the west side. So it really tucks in below there. And Chilean climate is very Mediterranean. It's very warm and sunny. But then sort of it gets that through the day. But then when the cool climate from the top of the Andes comes down, when it comes into the night, it starts to cool all the vineyards down. So it helps mellow out sort of the growing conditions, basically. So it doesn't go ahead of itself, really. It doesn't wear itself out through the growing season. So it sort of cools itself down. It doesn't need to start photosynthesizing, and it basically ends up with a lovely, elegant wine at the end of the day, and which we hopefully crack onto now.
I love the way you told that story. You should be a teacher. It's like a nice piece of geography and a little bit of history, and the story behind it. Well done. Can I open the bottle now?
Yeah, should we do it? Yeah. Crack on. Let's see, why not? I left mine annoyingly in my storeroom outside, so it's a little bit cool, but I think yours should be at a good temperature.
Yes.
Because you don't want it. Red wines, particularly, you want them to be like 16 to 18 degrees, sort of like if you have them at room temperature, you should be fine. Red wine's a little bit chilled at the moment, but you should just be fine. You should still get the same flavors, which is good. So.
Okay. Right. Let's open that up. Now, before anyone judges out there, this is what we decided on having the red in, right? Mm-hmm. Because I'm not a very big wine connoisseur, I just grabbed whatever glass I had at home. I just wanted to make sure it's not a pint glass.
No. So it's very good. So if you hold it up to the camera, you can see that in a bulb shape.
Yeah.
Sort of like that. Mm-hmm. That's very good for wines in general, because it helps collect all the aromas and flavors rather than let them go. So when you do swirl it around, and when we go and sniff the wine, you can actually smell all the flavors that are in there. And so it just helps those sort of pinched in walls help the flavors and aromas bounce off and keep inside. So, and where you want to fill it is just below the sort of the widest part of the bulb.
Here?
Just want about there. Just fill it out. Yeah.
Just below the widest part. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to fill it at as widest part. You just want to fill it slightly below, especially for tasting, because I'd say that you don't want to. Later on after the recording, you can fill it right back up.
No.
Just for tasting, you want to let all the aromas just sort of tuck in, whereas if you filled it a little bit higher, they may just sort of go out.
Also, let me just ask about the top. Now, of course, many people believe that if it's not a corkscrew, then it's no good. If it's just a screw-on, what's the truth behind this?
So, there is a slight bit of truth in that. Yeah, a lot of one of my friends as well. He's very, especially for like these sort of wines, South American wines that do have a corkscrew. He just doesn't. He doesn't believe that good red wines should not be in a corkscrew. It's they should have a cork in it, basically. Just because it's like, what the cork does essentially, it just imparts a different level of flavour onto the wine that maybe the winemaker wants to do. But it's just, again, it could be a cost factor, or it very much dependent on what the winemaker wants to do. But I guess it is sort of genuinely true that a lot of the cheaper wines do have screw caps, because it does cost a little bit more to put corks in, redesign the bottle and all that sort of stuff. But there are still very good examples of wines which have twisty caps, screw caps on the top. And so again, it's just like, it's one of those really that you can just take it as you will. Hopefully you'll like this one, and so, which is a good example of it being a good wine and needing a screw cap. But yeah, it's just it imparts a different flavor onto the wine, basically.
Good. Well, thank you. You demystified that.
You're testing me today.
I told you I'm a novice, so whatever pops in my mind, I shall ask. I don't know if it's silly or not. But...
I like it.
Very good. So now to the important part.
The important.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good. That's perfect. Yeah, that's great.
Lovely.
So
what you swirl.
You just want to give it a quick swirl. You should be able to, if you just gently put your nose over it, I can you can smell it already. You should be able to smell like fruit flavors already.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so they're quite typically, especially for this Merlot, they're typically red fruit flavors, so such as strawberries.
I was going to ask, is there strawberry in there somewhere?
Exactly, yeah. So that's very typical of a good Merlot, and sort of representing what the grape can offer, basically. And so, give it a big swirl, and then if you want to dig deeper, put your nose in it, and you can try and pick up, especially if you do go a little bit deeper, some sort of floral notes as well that maybe the wine should have as well, that could be present in this, if you can smell it. I can definitely...
Oh dear. No.
What are you getting?
Floral. What type?
If not, no worries. If your nose may not be particularly as attuned as mine, but it's something you may get to develop on later on.
All right.
Yeah. You may as well be able to pick up maybe slight bit of bell pepper sort of flavor, like green pepper.
Herbaceous.
Yeah, herbaceous. Yeah.
Interesting. You see, I would never have associated green bell pepper with wine.
There we go. Yeah.
It's healthy. It's full of fruit and vegetables. We need more of this.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And then
very good.
So we passed the first test. We've done the smelling. So these are these sort of flavors as well that you can pick up in the aromas essentially of the wine. You should be able to taste as well when we start to sip the wine as well. So there should be basically, whatever you pick up in your nose should be fairly representative of what you pick up on the mouth as well. But sometimes you may be able to find a couple more flavors that are, for instance, you could not smell on the nose that you could then pick on the tongue.
Right.
But that's just it's dependent on the wine basically, and it's very it's just whatever. Taste is very personal after all. So what you can taste and what you can't taste is entirely up to the person doing it basically. We should wait and see.
So turn out I am very rubbish at this, but let's give it a go.
What you want to try and do is when you sip it, you want to try and let the mouth the wine sort of cover the inside of your mouth. So try and swish it around as if you're using mouthwash essentially. So you can get a real, especially for red wines, because they contain tannins. You get this sort of general feel and sort of slight covering, but it's a really pleasant covering of your mouth, and a slight drying texture to it as well. Which is very representative of red wines. And that's what a lot of people do is that sort of slight drying sensation, which helps it's just nice, really. I don't really know how to explain.
You can tell a very good story. Right. Let's see. That's very nice.
Good.
Don't ask me about fruit. I already told you the most important.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll just get. That's what I'm saying. As soon as if you pick it up in the nose, just write it down whenever you're tasting. If you're doing a tasting thing, the same again. I've got the exact same one. But yeah, can you sort of feel on your tongue a slight dryness? Yeah, that's what tannins are basically. There's slight dryness, and this particular Merlot as well, given the region that it grows in and the climate, they're quite like medium. They're not too in your face. That some wines we may explore later down in the line. They're not too like really boom. Well, they're not too sort of soft. It's a nice middle ground. It's a nice like midweek wine, I'd say. You just get on with it.
It's very easy to drink.
It's a good conversation wine, though, isn't it?
Yes.
Talking about the label, and then you have a sip, and then you're like, they matched it beautifully, I think.
Very good. So would you say that different red wines contain more or less tannin, or is the amount of tannin the same? It's not, is it?
Well, in red wine making, for instance, the tannins particularly come from the skins, and maybe sometimes the stems, especially in the classic vineyards that they use. They sometimes put the stems in with the fermentation process, but the skins contain most of the tannins, and this is what is distinguished between red wine making and white wine making, is that red wine fermentation process contains all the skins in it with the wines, with the grapes, so all the grapes, whereas in the other one, they crush and then press the white wine, so that it's just the juices that are fermented.
So there's no skin?
So there's no skin at all, yeah. So that's why tannins, you will never feel tannins in white wine.
White wine.
Yeah, it's only applicable to red wine. Yeah.
I like this.
Yes.
Yes, I don't think I like the red wines that contain too much tannin, because when I taste that dryness a bit too much, I can never explain it. It seems, I don't know what's the word for it. What's the best word? Is it too dry then, or too something? But I can never explain. But whenever I taste, go ahead.
I mean, it's quite intense, isn't it? Especially when you do get a big bombshell in your face, in your mouth, of a big tannin grape. It's not for everybody's liking, definitely. But I think definitely this one is a lovely sort of evening. Pop it on
by the fire
party. Now they're in, maybe outside of lockdown periods with other people, friends and stuff like that. You can have a couple of bottles of these on a Friday or Saturday night and let everything go. Yeah.
Even for an everyday wine with some food, or in the evenings, I would definitely recommend. It's very, very nice.
Nice.
Right, just a little bit more and then I'll put it away. Very nice. I feel like I want to eat it.
Good. Can you feel as well? I noticed on my last gulp as well, like my tongue being sort of quite fresh in itself. There's like a minty flavour. That's quite addictive as well of the sort of region and Merlot. It's quite like a lovely little, just fresh, minty eucalyptus sort of feel as well, which again would be the herbaceous sort of side coming into it.
The green peppers, right?
The green peppers, the same sort of category, yeah.
Right, so girl with the pearl earring, I agree. It's very, very good. Very tasty. Thank you very much. I hope one day you will return with another arty wine.
I do. I have another one. I have a Sauvignon Blanc, which we could do, also from Chile as well. So this would be a great opportunity to go, okay, we've done the reds, now we can move on to the white side of Chile. And especially Sauvignon Blanc, one of Chile's best white wine, great varieties that it produces as well. So.
Thank you very much, Fergus. This was very, very nice. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I shall try it later again, just in case. See if I can recognize the bell peppers later on.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you very much. We shall be back next time. Thank you. Thank you to the viewers, and thank you to lovely Mr. Wood.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
When you've missed the train, don't despair. Have a nice cup of coffee. And perhaps a mince pie at the Runaway on Lewes Station. After that, why worry about the next train? The Runaway on Lewes Station. Relaxation beyond compare.